just waited till she's done. And I told her, ma'am, I don't see anybody around me, with a stick or anything. I'm by myself with my truck. These are my groceries. See, I came independently, bought my stuff, and went out, and I don't see anything, scary that I'm oppressed into anything. She said, look at yourself. You bundled up like this. This is oppression. Okay, of course, I know there are a lot more important things that really defines a religion, but I'm sorry to say that people really stick on the little things that really, not really a big deal at all. And I told him, listen, man, I have not stopped you to ask you, why you're taking off your clothes this way? Why you're dressing your dog and you are not dressed up? This is my choice, okay? You don't see anybody around me. I'm doing okay. I'll tell you something. I'm an educated woman. I'm a mother of 4. I have 2 degrees. I speak 3 languages. I'm fine. I'm not oppressed, I guarantee you. But I really appreciate your concern because obviously she was sincere. Honestly, she was. She felt she was helping. And this thing I deal with just about all the time. One time in my work, and by the way, although I have different degrees and stuff, I ended up in the financial, field. So one time I was sitting doing some paperwork for a gentleman, has a problem with the IRS, and he's like looking at me. You know how you can see from your peripheral vision that he's like measuring you up and down, all that. So after we're finished, he got up, he got his stuff, and then he said, I know where you come from. He was like, with this like victorious tone. And I said, where do I come from, sir? And he said, you come, and I want you to pay attention to this. And honestly, wallahi, I have no hard feeling whatsoever. I'm just giving you an example of how things can be fed to people, okay? He said, I know where you come from. You came from where the woman walks a mile behind the man. All right. So I told him, okay, do you have a minute, sir? He said, yes, it's an office. I have to be polite, So I told him, okay, would you please sit down? He sat down. I told him, have you ever been to England? He said, no. I told him, okay, have you ever watched TV and you saw the envoy, the royal envoy of the royal family? And he said, yeah. I told him, since when does the queen walk first? You will see all the servants and all the guards, they walk in front of the queen. The queen walks in the back. Their job is to open the way. When you run to the door to open it for your wife, they call it protocol. When my husband walks in front of me to make sure that my way is smooth and I'm not bothered by anybody, they call it behind the ages. That's the difference of how you look at things. So I told him, I am a queen. I will give permission sometimes to the servant to walk by me, but their job is to walk in front of us and, make sure everything is smooth and silky for the queen. So this is just really, these are a few things that really has to do with Muslim women. I'm not going to list to you the most marvelous, the most wonderful, the most beautiful rights we were given as women, because you take an average woman, you don't have to be a nun, you don't have to be a person of a church, you don't have to take an average Muslim woman who's practicing, who's not under any control of, we're talking again, cultural practices, and you will not see more proud, more, balanced, more compassionate person than a Muslim woman. We are very much, we don't ask for equality because we're equal, if not a little bit more. We don't ask for equality. From the very beginning in the Quran, from the very start of humanity, women in Islam were not given that, the burden of the sin. That, that was given in other religions, that, women is responsible for putting us on this hell of a world. And if it wasn't for you, women, we would have been in heaven right now. That is not true. That is not true. Absolutely not. In Islam, we look at it as we are equal, we are 2 pieces of a puzzle. There is no way one can do without the other. You cannot compare them. You cannot ask for them to be equal because they are equal. They're part of one picture. But each one functions differently. So I do not go about screaming that I want to be equal to the man because I was given every right my husband was given, for example. I can take education, I can work, I can own my stuff. Actually, I'm a little bit more pampered because you know what? I can have my own money, he cannot. So this is really what it is. So I can, choose to work. I can choose not to work, which is very important nowadays. Because when a mother chooses to stay and take care of her children and her family and do her job, which a lot of women, I'm sorry to say that, a little bit not very proud of this. I meet a lot of women in my line of work, and when I ask her, what's your occupation, it's like, homemaker. Like, homemaker, a housewife. And they're like, why you whispering it? Why are you ashamed of it? You work more than full-time. Homemaker, you know what a homemaker is? It's a lot of work. And we really don't need to find all these words for it because we're not ashamed of the job that God has given us. We don't have to be called domestic engineers. We don't have to be called any of those words just to hide the fact that we are taking. So we have the choice to work, or as long as our priorities are set straight, and as long as your God-given job is taken care of, do whatever you want in your extra time. And as you can see, we do a lot. So this is basically quickly, and again, I'm sorry, we are not doing it we're not going into the jurisprudence of every little thing and not into the laws and the little details, but I wanted you to meet an average, listen to an average, regular Muslim woman, who you see a lot of them out there. And by the way, they confuse us like hell. They're always like, did I not see you there a moment ago? Because we have a big group of Muslim ladies in this area. And I'll tell you a funny thing, at a certain year, 6 of us were pregnant. So we'll go into the supermarket and tell him, how's your baby? And then 2 hours later, and Karim looked at, I thought you had your baby. And then it was like such a puzzle for them. It's really fun. But so I wanted you to really sing, and I want to encourage each one of you, and I do really beseech you. God have given every person an intellect for a reason. And everybody here, young or old, know that we are influenced by so many things, and so many factors, and so many stuff that's been fed to us. So each one of us has the responsibility in front of God and in front of his family and in front of him or herself to look the truth by themselves. You have the book. The book is right there, translated to every language in the world. By the way, we've read the books. It's part of Islam to know the other religions. We know about everything that we need to know about Judaism and Christianity. And part of our own book actually encompasses these stories, encompasses the essence of these books. So every one of you has the responsibility to pick up a copy and see what people are talking about. And see for yourself. Read that very authentic, beautiful book. Be the judge yourself. Do not, pin everything you see of practices from different Muslims on Islam. The principle is different than those who practice it. And basically, the next time you see a Muslim woman, I'd like you to think that, you know what? She stands out for something, beside what they've been trying to tell you of oppression and other things. Okay? Thank you very much. If you have any questions,
Anyway, the host of this seminar is the Springstead Humanities and Entomology Society. This campus organization has various projects and will be going on a field trip at the end of the year. Okay, no, I'm sorry. This is what happens when you keep a girl working from 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, our last speaker will be Hassan Sultan. He's from Egypt and currently lives in Tampa. He graduated from the University of South Florida and is currently a teacher at the Universal Academy of Florida. So please give a round of applause to Mr. Sultan.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, peace and greetings to everyone. I'm sorry that I'm late, I kind of got lost. I'm used to going to schools and everything's in one place, and then asked somebody that was looking for half an hour, and they told me the theater's across the street. So, forgive me for that. I just want to make a correction. I'm not from Egypt. My parents are from Palestine. I was born in Louisiana, actually. So, I guess there's a little confusion there also. I guess the speakers before me are a lot more versed than me in the religion. So I'll keep mine very basic, and I'll speak about 3 basic things that every single human being on earth has. And these are 3 basic instincts that every human that walks on this earth has. And the first one is the instinct of spirituality. That every human looks to follow a superior being. Even those who don't believe in God, such as atheists and others, they either worship science or follow something. Because it's a natural instinct within a human to worship something or follow something. The second instinct that everyone has is the instinct of survival. Everyone wants to live. Everyone wants to have a decent life and have at least the basic necessities of life, food, shelter, and other things. Because every human has this natural instinct. In Arabic we call it fitrah. It's a natural thing that when every human is born, they want to have these things. And the last thing is the instinct of feeling. So every human has feelings, emotions. So sometimes you're sad, sometimes you're happy, sometimes you cry. You're not happy forever. You know, for example, you want to be laughing if somebody hits you in the face. You're like, haha, that's so funny, right? Because, you know, you have different emotions for different reasons. And they even had a show on Oprah once. They had a girl who did not feel pain. So even when she cuts herself, she did not feel any of that pain. So even pain is a blessing. Because if you don't feel pain, then you'll probably cut yourself up and then, you know, without even feeling it. So in order to satisfy these instincts, every human goes to different avenues. So for example, you know, some people, to satisfy the instinct of emotions, a lot of people in this country actually, including Muslims, is they go to music. You know, when they're depressed, they listen to Usher. Alright? Usher will tell them how he loves this girl, and then he'll make another song about confessions, how he broke her, how he cheated on her. So one song is about love, and other song is about how he cheated on her. Or now, Justin Bieber, or Beyonce, Shakira, Lil Wayne. So people, to satisfy their emotions, they turn on the radio. So to listen to these things, because inside we convince ourselves by listening to these people and to this music, it'll make us feel good about ourselves. And for those it doesn't work for them, then they go to other things. But in Islam, for this instinct of emotions, for example, and other instincts, we believe that there has to be something superior that's not in need, does not have any needs or wants. As we're sitting in here, we have limitations. We don't know what's happening outside. We don't know, like, we can't visualize everybody at one time. We're all limited in some way or another. So Prophet Abraham, when he was searching for the Creator, he saw the sun, and he thought the sun was the God. But then the sun set. So then he saw the moon, and thought the moon was the God, and then the sun came back up. So he was in search for that superior being, because he knew inside of him that this didn't happen haphazardly. So there has to be a superior being that set this life and created this world. So there's 2 things that I can prove to you. You know, that the existence of a God, that there's only one God, and as our previous speaker said, that the book of the Quran, the words of God, that revealed to all humanity. And as Muslims, we don't believe Islam is a new religion, but it is the completion of all previous religions that were sent and revealed. So, to satisfy this instant, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God, He sent us different prophets and messengers. From Prophet Adam to Prophet Abraham, Moses, and all these different prophets, Jesus, till, and the last prophet being Prophet Muhammad, to send us guidance. Because He didn't leave us, without guidance. So He sent the Bible at the time of Jesus, the Torah, and so forth. And then at the last prophet, the seal of prophets, He sent the Quran. And what makes the Quran different from every other revelation is that God promised to protect it from ever being changed. And for the past 1400 years, if you go to anywhere around the world, whether it's China or Africa or Asia or the US or Canada, and you ask any person for a Quran, they'll bring you the same exact Quran. Why? Because this is a promise from the Creator to protect it. And it even talks about the previous books that were said, and also stories that took place in the history. And as many scientists and Orientalists tried to prove it wrong, at the end, they found out that this Quran can never be proven wrong. Until this day, the challenge is always to come up with one verse or ayah like it. So, I encourage everyone tonight, I don't know if they have any copies outside, but to at least, or even go online, to take a look at the Quran. See why we read this Quran, what's different about it. And believe it or not, there's a lot of similar stories in the Quran as previous books that were sent. And this is what encourages the first thing that was revealed in the Quran is to read. And one thing that doesn't happen a lot nowadays, if you tell anybody what's the last time you read the book, they'll probably, it's been a while. So if you don't read, which is okay, we have CDs also to listen to these things. And personally, growing up in the United States, Islam is something I don't take lightly. As a kid, I grew up and went to a Muslim school for from the 3rd grade to 11th grade. And when I went to USF for the first year, I saw a table, with atheists and so forth. I was surprised. There's all these other religions. So then when you had the discussion with them, you realize that you have to be convinced of what you believe in. So me standing here, I'm not just going to claim I'm a Muslim. When I was 17 years old, I was challenged by other ideas and thoughts and concepts. So when they brought the idea that there's no God that exists, I have to make sure that I'm fully convinced that there is a God. And the God does exist. And that He has no father, no son, and is free of wants and needs. And He sent His prophets and messengers, including Jesus, for this one message of belief in one God. And and I encourage anyone if you decide to read the Quran, to read Surah or chapter number 19, the story of Mary. And she describes her life and how the birth of Jesus took place. And how the first thing he said is that I'm nothing but a slave of God, not the son of God. And this is the first words he uttered when he was born, when he came out of the womb of his mother, that he's not a son of God, but a slave of God. And this concept, the belief in one God, is the most important concept for us as Muslims. Because if you think about it, in life, you can tell somebody to be good, have good morals, don't steal, don't beat up each other, don't call each other names, don't become bullies. And the deterring force sometimes is, okay, you get a referral, or, you're going to get in trouble, or don't do drugs because, you might get caught. But then people find ways and loopholes, and they do these things anyways. So the deterring force becomes weaker and weaker. And you see it as, for example, in the rap culture, in the music culture, even athletes, a lot of them are in these things. They do these things. Because, they feel like, I have the freedom to do all these things. What should stop me? I should be good to a certain extent, but, his definition of good is different than her definition of good. So what you think is good, to him is bad. So as Muslims, we believe, look, that this Quran wasn't sent for the Arabs or for the Muslims only. It was sent for all humanity. And in this book, it changed the worst people on earth. Because it was sent to people who used to bury their own kids alive. They had no social respect for women. They used to kill each other over petty things. And then when the Quran and the Prophet came, it made them the best humans ever to live on this earth. And it wasn't magic. It wasn't Harry Potter, putting the stick on them and, doing some magic spell and they became automatically good. It was a deterring force that they believed in a superior being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God in English, that they knew that He exists. And they will think twice before they steal. They'll think twice before they lie to somebody. Why? Because they knew God is watching them at all times. And this is a deterring force that made them who they are.